In this video, we're going to talk about exponents and powers of numbers. So the power of a number is the product formed by repeated multiplication of the same number. And there are some different parts to a power. The first is the base, which is the factor of the product. And the second is the exponent. And the exponent is the number of times the factor is used. So if we look at an example, this whole thing, 2 to the power of 3, is a power. The base is the number 2, and the exponent is 3. And this means 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times itself 3 times. Common error is that people look at this and say, well, that's 2 times 3. That is not what a power is, and that is not what the exponent is telling you to do. The exponent is telling you you're going to multiply 2 by itself 3 times, not 2 times 3. All right, let's look at using positive integers for exponents. So I have 2 to the power of 1, which means I have 1, 2 multiplied by itself, by its only self, is 2. If I have 2 to the power of 2, that means take 2 2's and multiply them together, and you get a 4. And 2 to the power of 3 means you're going to multiply 2 times itself 3 times, which is equal to 8. And then 2 to the power of 4 means 2 times itself 4 times, which is 16. And then 2 to the power of 5 is 2 times itself 5 times, which is equal to 32. Now notice the pattern, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Each of these, to go from one to the next, you're multiplying by a 2. And notice that all of our products are positive. Let's now look at the same example, but using negative integers. So now I have a negative 2 to the power of 1, which means just one negative 2. So that negative 2 to the power of 1 is a negative 2. Negative 2 to the power of 2 means negative 2 times negative 2. And negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Negative 2 to the power of 3 means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And if I do the math out, negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4, and a positive 4 times a negative 2 is a negative 8. And now I have negative 2 to the power of 4, which means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. I know negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And negative 8 times a negative 2 is a positive 16. And let's do one more. Negative 2 to the power of 5 means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. I know negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4, and then a positive 4 times a negative 2 is a negative 8, and a negative 8 times a negative 2 is a positive 16, and a positive 16 times a negative 2 is a negative 32. Now, if you look at the patterns that are going on here, we have a negative, a positive, a negative, a positive, and a negative. And if you look at the exponent for the negatives, I have a 1 and a negative, a 3 and a negative, and a 5 and a negative. So when we have a negative exponent, not a negative exponent, an odd exponent, then our product is going to be a negative. And we did the math out so you could see how the negative formed. When you have an even exponent, your answer is going to be positive. So an even exponent has a positive result. Now what about zero exponents? Anything to the power of 0 will be 1, not 0. They will always be 1. So the rules for exponents are, if you have a negative base and an odd exponent, your product will be negative. If you have a negative base and an even exponent, your product is going to be positive. And anything that is to the zero exponent, your product is going to be 1. Now, there's some special notation we have to keep in mind. The first is this. This is not negative 3. It's actually 3 to the power of 2, and then you're going to make the product negative. That's how we read that in algebra. So in expanded form, this is what it means. 3 times 3 is a 9, and then make it negative. So the product is negative 9. You might also see a negative exponent written this way, which means negative 3 times itself 2 times. So you would have negative 3 times negative 3, which is a positive 9. This is different. These two types of notations are different from each other. And the result means one is going to be positive and the other will be negative. And then there's a third one, which we don't see too often. You have the negative sign outside of the exponent, and we would read this as 3 to the second power, or 3 to the second power, which means 3 times 3, and then make it negative at the end. So it's actually the same as the one above it. So the result of this one would be a negative 9 as well.